Welcome to our 5th episode of Spainer and Riggs. We're excited. We got a good action-packed, lots of great discussion here on the podcast. We're going to talk about, I got a great interview with Coach Logan, head coach at UND's women's soccer program. England guy, of course. We've got good talk about ND sports. Basketball's heated up. We've got a lot of region play, both at the Class A level and the Class B. Spainer's going to dive in a lot more as we're going all over the state. And then, of course, we're going to talk some GOAT talk, pitchers. What we got for the GOAT, what we got for pitchers, what your thoughts are. I think this might be a little bit more wide open. And here we are with episode number 5. Here we go. Our good buddy here, Spainer, had a good conversation with Rick Becker this week. Tell us a little about what you talked about and kind of what you're excited about talking to him.
You know, I think it was an interesting interview. I wanted to ask him some political stuff, but really how it affects high school sports and, North Dakota sports, a North Dakota perspective, I guess, on sports. And, it was interesting. I want to know a little bit about a person, how competitive they are. And so we got to know, he's a UND guy. His wife's a Gopher, Fighting Sioux versus Gopher hockey. Is that the best rivalry in hockey?
It's starting to get there. It is. I mean, it's rivalry renewed, although there's nobody even close. But it has changed the hockey landscape with Penn State moving on. But it's still. I mean, it's still talked about all the time
in our region. It is absolutely the game we wait for, right?
Absolutely.
So he lit up when he was talking about that. I liked listening to that. But speaking of UND. We had the opportunity to sit down with UND Fighting Hawks, Chris Logan, Division I soccer coach, and here it is. Hey, we're here with Chris Logan, head women's soccer coach of the UND Fighting Hawks. How's it going, Chris?
It's going very well, thanks. Glad to be on the show. It's nice to see your pretty face after so long. It's been a while.
You and I, at some point, we're going to have to connect on that battle, the little X-Golf battle, or what's the Top Golf, right?
I think that might have to happen, yeah. It'll be who embarrasses themselves the least, most likely. So should be a good time, though.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Is I'm definitely going to embarrass myself, but that's okay. So... For those that don't know out here, you are a scum Liverpool fan, right? Is that right? Liverpool?
The team that's currently chasing all 4 trophies that they were entered into for this year. Yep, already won a trophy the other week. Got 3 more still competing for. That team that was world champions in the last couple of years as well. Yeah, that team right there.
I like it. I'm a Spurs fan, for those who don't know. So yeah, I'm going to take the beating tonight. But so I have a question I wanted to ask a Liverpool fan. Winning the Champions League and then winning the Premier League, which one felt better?
Premier League.
So explain that to an American, because an American would see you play the Premier League and then you go to the Champions League as playoffs, and then you're the champion of basically the world. But why is the Premier League like Mecca, the biggest deal in winning in soccer, football? So
I think that for Liverpool fans, it was because way back in the 80s, almost prior to my time supporting Liverpool, Liverpool used to win that trophy a lot. And then it was there was a 30-year gap when Liverpool never won that trophy. So the desperation to win the Premier League trophy just built and built, especially as Man United, who are our main rivals, overtook us with the most championships for the EPL. So I would say for a lot of clubs like in Manchester City, the Champions League is the big deal. That's what they want to win. But for Liverpool and Liverpool fans, we were starved of that one trophy that we were craving for so long. It just became such a huge deal when we won it. So I think it's really, for Liverpool fans, that's the trophy that's been our holy grail for so long. But for a lot of other teams, like a Man City, who've won the EPL but have never won the Champions League, the Champions League is more lucrative to them right now. So it's just really down to the club and what they... what kind of quenches their thirst in terms of what they're looking for and regarding what trophy they want to win. So that's why, as a Liverpool fan, after I'd been of that 30 years. I'd been a Liverpool fan for 28 years. I'd seen us win the Champions League a couple of times. I'd seen us win all these other trophies, but I'd never seen us win the Premier League. So when COVID happened and everything got shut down, there was all these concerns that they were just going to cancel the league. And Liverpool literally needed one more point to win the league. And there's the part of you, obviously, there's a pandemic going on, and there's a lot of safety concerns. But then there's the little selfish side of you. It's like, man, it's only one more point. Like, come on, are we going to get the league done? And luckily, they managed to find safe ways to start the league back up, and we were eventually champions. So thankfully, I've got to see my lifetime Liverpool win an EPL championship.
Well, that's good. Well, we'll switch some gears to college soccer. You're at UND, women's coach. With the way that soccer here in the U.S. has changed, landscaping specifically with recruiting, you see numbers in youth become more and more so that you have a lot more options. Identify the type of girls that you're looking for your team. I mean, it's tough. You're looking for, a certain position, but, what's the makeup for, a soccer player that you want to recruit at UND?
Sure. And I think that there's certain behavioral traits, so to speak, cognitive traits that we look at. There's certain physical traits, and then there's certain technical traits. So I would certainly say from the behavioral cognitive standpoint, for me, somebody who looks like they have passion for the game, that loves playing the game of soccer, and the way that their body language is, and the way that they compete on during a game, and their desire and their drive to compete. I think that those things, tenacity, and I never say die attitude, that you can, those things are very palpable for a college coach to see from the sideline. I think that somebody who's a true competitor and has that drive is certainly something that we look for. I think from a physicality standpoint, somebody who most certainly has the speed, the power, the strength, and the endurance to play at the Division I level, because it is very physical, it is very fast. Jason knows that from his days, coaching. The NCAA soccer is it's very physical, it's very tough, it's very strong. So you've certainly got to have that, not just competitive edge, but that physicality in your game, and the ability to keep up the speed of the game. Then I'd say from a technical standpoint, just what qualities could you bring to a Division I soccer program? Is it you're a really good dribbler on the ball? Are you really good at finishing in front of the net? If you're a defender, are you really good at 1v1 defending, winning head balls? If you're a goalkeeper, are you a really good shot stopper? Are you good at dealing with high balls? So what special attributes within your position would you be able to bring to the level? So I think that those are the three things. Is you always look at the behavioral aspect, you always look at the physicality aspect, and then you look at the technical aspects as well.
Well, good. And then now to kind of follow up on that, especially here in the state of North Dakota, we're coached lots of sports here, especially soccer, and I'm a hockey coach. And be honest too, like where's the level of high school soccer in terms of talent? Because now you think about UND, NDSU, Minot State, and maybe Mary as the NCAA schools, but is there a certain number? Is a talent pool not big enough yet, or needs to be bigger? I mean, what are the options in terms of high school recruiting? Is there a number of girls that are worthy of being recruited at UND or whatnot? Or do youth programs have to do a better job of bringing up those kids to the next level?
Sure. I think that one of the things is just from a population standpoint, there's not as many people playing soccer as maybe if you go out to Southern California. There's just not as many people playing. And I think some of the opportunities are limited a little bit more, especially with the weather. You're not able to be outside playing soccer as much year round. So I think that does certainly hinder some development. I will say though, going to the high school state tournament this past summer, there were definitely some good players there that we kind of, especially some younger players that we started to put on our radar, which was really awesome to see that there was definitely some talent in the state that were like, oh, we need to maybe keep an eye on that person and check in on their development in future years as they grow older. And, something I'm super excited about, because we can definitely talk about this person, is, we have from the Bismarck area. We have somebody coming in this fall. Her name's Reecey Varacek, and she's a really talented player from in-state that we're super pumped to have playing at the Division I level, and we have some hopes that Reecey's going to come in and do some great things. So there definitely is, some talent in the state that is on our radar, and there has been even within the 2022 recruiting classes. I say we got Reecey. There was a couple of other people that were kind of on our radar, but sometimes through timing and just what you need in your program, maybe positionally it just isn't necessarily what you need. But there's definitely, there was definitely some people who were turning some heads at the state high school tournament last summer.
So I'd like your thoughts on the transfer portal, and that's obviously a hot topic right now. And one thing I noticed, and I was a Division I coach like you. You can't put a player in that's going to hurt you. So like your subs have to be fairly big time. Would you agree with that? So I thought it was just interesting as we would lead up. In the Horizon League, which is a one-bid league, so you're non-conference. You're trying to develop everyone as much as you can, and you get in the league, and then you got to start winning games. I found it interesting that freshmen were frustrated that their minutes would shrink in the league, and how does that, when you're thinking about developing players and keeping players, and you got transfer portal, and you got freshmen that are going to be really good a year from now when they get a year of strength coaching and whatnot. But you want to keep them in your program. How do you balance it? And what are your thoughts on the transfer portal?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's been very interesting with how it, in some ways, and definitely in sports other than soccer, it seems like a free-for-all where people can go into a program for 1 year and really excel and decide to move on to a higher level. Or, if it's a younger player who isn't necessarily getting the time that they expected, and all of a sudden they feel as though they need to go somewhere else to pursue some playing time instead of seeing if they can actually be developed maybe in the spring after the fall season. So, it's been an interesting one for us to navigate. We haven't delved too much into the portal ourselves for a couple of reasons. One, we've been very fortunate that pretty much our whole team has all decided to stay after each year. Really, the only people that have looked to go into the portal have been people that have been wanting to spend their COVID year playing somewhere else after they've graduated. So we've been pretty fortunate with a retention standpoint. And because we've been good with our retention and our recruiting has generally been pretty good, we haven't really had to dive into the transfer portal too much to bring people in. So we're probably a little bit less experienced of that. And I think there's some positives in terms it means that our girls seem happy and optimistic about the future. And also it just means that maybe our recruitment of freshmen has gone fairly well. So we're probably a little bit less involved with the transfer portal than a lot of other people are, and I think for good reasons. And we've been very fortunate this past year where we had 11 freshmen come in, and they were an extremely, extremely talented team. They're young, they're freshmen, playing against a lot of teams that have COVID seniors who are 22, 23 years old, who know how to get it done. And we've got a bunch of 18-year-olds running around after them. But, we felt as though they were a very strong group that would, once they get that experience and in the spring we begin to develop them, they've got a very bright future. So we've had a little bit of a different experience with our younger players in terms of playing time, experience in big games recently, which I think has helped us kind of retain them and not lose them to the portal.
So you had like an 8 or 9 game win jump in your first year at UND. And you've basically maintained that to a winning record, double-digit victories while you're there. How did you immediately make that big jump? And were you coaching the previous coach's kids, or were you? I mean, did you have a complete makeover that first season? And and how did you maintain it as you turned over the roster?
When I first came in, I think we just changed some of the things, maybe from a stylistic standpoint that made sense for how I would like to play, move some people into some positions that I thought would make sense for my structure. And really, the thing that I was fortunate with is I arrived in the spring, and we do all of our developing in the spring season. So I had a whole spring to work with the group on things that I wanted to change and move into the direction I saw how I wanted our team to play. So I was very fortunate that I inherited a group at the time that I had enough time to develop them and get them ready for the fall. And then by my second year, I managed to inject a young group that had a lot more athleticism, but I had a big group of seniors who also had been through 2 springs with me as well as a fall, that understood our principles of play. So it was kind of nice that we had some energy, but we had some experience as well. And that kind of helped with some consistency of attaining better results. And, we kind of rode that wave for a couple of years, especially as by my 3rd year, we had a decent amount of upperclassmen that kind of had the experience of winning and kind of just knew how to grind out results.
Well, good. I got just one interesting question. Of course, you can hear his very thick accent. I don't know if you've had a chance to go back home with COVID and whatnot, but what's the biggest thing you miss about back in England? Is there something miss, food, or certain places you'd go, or is there a big thing that you miss that you've had a transition here in the U.S.?
A doner kebab?
I mean, definitely the doner kebabs, fish and chip shops for sure. Got to miss that stuff.
Absolutely.
I really miss the potato chips over there.
Oh, okay.
They're fantastic. I can't explain it. The tomato ketchup flavored potato chips, fantastic.
Oh,
can't beat them.
Last one. Tell the world here, the world that all that revolves around Spainer and Riggs, that is, but tell us the coolest thing, maybe tradition or just maybe one instance, that like a piece of you that, that's off the soccer field, but like in your program, maybe a lip sync battle on the bus or something with your girls, something. Just tell us something about you that maybe no one knows that, they want to hear about.
Something about me that nobody knows. I mean, it's definitely not going to be anything interesting, but something I did let slip to the girls because we had to reveal something about ourselves. And I said, back in Scotland, where I'm originally from, I actually do own some land over there, so I'm a lord. And when I told my team that the day after I came in, and there was a picture of me, and underneath it said Lord Logan. So sometimes when they're feeling feisty, they call me Lord Logan. It's the only time I've ever called a Lord, because I'm not called anything like that at home. I actually have a little piece of land that entitles me to become to be called a Lord of some land in Scotland.
Oh, right on.
That is pretty cool, man. I didn't know that either, so that's interesting. Let's hook up one of these days. Just text me and we'll have that Top Golf battle, and maybe you can come back on and the winner can give the other person some trash talk or something to the whole world.
Absolutely.
I got my clubs in the other room. I'm getting down to the simulator tomorrow. I'm going to get practicing here.
I don't have a simulator, but I don't think enough practice would help me. So on one of my TikToks last night, I did my swing with one of the girls, and she's just kind of looking.
We'll do one better. We'll fly there and go play at Royal St. Andrews. I'll do that. We can handle that big link style course. There we go.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, guys.
And here we are with the high school segment here at Spainer Riggs. Big thank you to Chris Logan. It was a great interview with him. Now we're talking about hoops. This is the heart of hoops tourney time. We talked about West Region and East Region basketball at the Class A level. And of course, region tournament time right now as we're getting through the midst of some of these big games that are going in. We want to talk a little bit of Class A girls. It was a big weekend that we just had. I know you were able to follow along. Tell us a little bit about what you thought about the Class A region tournaments. Of course, the success of Mount High was nice, exciting. But what are your thoughts, Class A region tournaments, and what you saw?
Well, I was at WDA. I thought that was interesting. And Minot was able to take care of Bismarck to get to the championship. Centuries, they're just unstoppable. Yeah. I watched Minot. And watching Lily Bell is pretty amazing. I mean, she's like ice water in her veins. They had a 14-point lead. It shrunk to 2 with under 5 minutes to go, and she hit 3 consecutive threes to roll that back up to an 11-point lead or whatnot. The Minot High future is very bright.
For sure.
If you're talking state, you got 7 teams at state. I'm taking Century versus the field. Logan Nisley is just unstoppable, and she's 6-foot guard, handles, can shoot.
For sure.
I take Century over the field. My gut feeling.
You don't think any upsets coming from the East at all? I mean, is it just the West? Like Century over the field. Do you think? What about Minot High? Does Minot High have a chance to make some run? I mean, get some excitement going here. I mean,
Minot High is they're very good. They're led by 2 8th graders with Maggie Fricky and Lily Bell.
Absolutely.
I mean, and Fricky is like a Wolverine or a Badger on the. I mean, she's just she's unbelievable effort, and we
get to watch those girls for the next.
But I mean, if you're asking me, I'm going to go with the older teams in a state tournament.
Okay.
My prediction would be the East goes 3-1 in round 1, and Century sweeps out the East in the remainder of the tournament. That's my guess.
Okay.
But the East has 4 really good teams. That are probably up there at the Minot level.
For sure.
And, and Minot's just kind of a notch below Century. That's my feeling. I've seen a lot of teams play. I don't think anyone touches Century.
Okay. Well, that's good. We'll keep an eye on it. And I know that we'll see how good you are with your predictions. Now let's go to Class A boys now. Again, things have, again, kind of materialized to kind of a little bit of kind of feeling that you knew Minot High was kind of their way in the West. But what were your thoughts on the Class A side? I mean, Winchesky's got his boys rolling, and they're historically, when it gets ready to this crunch turning time, they gets his kids playing their best at the right side. But what are your thoughts on the Class A side?
I love you brought him up.
Okay,
because Pat McNally hired him.
Okay,
and when he did, the community was really upset and whatnot.
Oh,
but Pat McNally he's a good sports guy.
Absolutely.
I mean, the guy knows.
Been around everywhere. I mean,
and he knows all sports. I mean, he's coached a ton of different sports, and he made a good hire. Minot High has been dominant ever since he's got it rolling. Watching them at WDA, I thought they were the best coach team. Mm-hmm. I thought was interesting. You get Eric Wentz, who's a dagger from the 3-point range. St. Mary's was all over him, and he just went down and just got fouled and got fouled and got fouled and got fouled and got fouled, and he was getting guys off balance and drawing and getting and ones and whatnot. Sure. That's a lot coaching. Eric Wentz, I think he's committed to McAllister next year.
Okay.
Minot's just, they're a good team.
But East, you got to tell the East is going to be strong, right? I mean, you think the East is going to? East.
They're good. The East is good.
It's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be tough, isn't it?
I think it's going to be similar to the girls. I think the East is going to go 3-1.
Really?
And I think that you could have a barn burner for a state championship.
Oh boy.
I'm afraid. I think Cheyenne is
really.
I think Cheyenne is going to clip Minot and maybe get the upset for the state championship.
Oh boy.
That's my prediction. I think if Minot gets by Cheyenne, they could win. But
okay.
I like Cheyenne here down the stretch and how they played down the stretch.
Oh boy.
It can't be a West homer or whatnot, but
no. Well, like you said, it's going to be, especially now it's in Bismarck, so you're going to see, light travel for Minot High as opposed to those teams coming out east. And in high school sports, I have a feeling, in just my following of how that has worked in the past, is that it has an effect on it. I mean, you talk about where championships are, the travel you have to get there, if you're able to stay in your home at a high school level, as opposed to what we were dealing with college athletes, where hotels is the norm. I mean, especially here in North Dakota, where we had to travel forever. So that'll be interesting to see how it goes.
It is. It's a big factor.
For sure.
And I don't think people realize when those kids are in the hotels, there's a lot of energy, and it's hard to get kids to bed, you know what I mean, on a normal hour. So their sleep schedule's a little different. But, for basketball, fortunately, you kind of play later in the evenings.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that first night, that first day, that first game's early.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But travel coming back. I mean, it's going to be interesting how that goes in. Now the granddaddy of them all, Class B, and I know we got a lot of followers that are from North Dakota that have a total grasp of what Class B is all about, but I know that the people outside of North Dakota, specifically in the north, have no idea how this phenomenon of popularity is. And you've been at the gyms, and I've seen you've been able to follow along and get all these interviews and stuff. We'll talk a little bit Class B here. Of course, we're localized here in Minot, but we want to touch on some of the other regions. Get your take on it, who's going to come, who you think's going to come through, and kind of maybe some predictions that come through or in thoughts. But Region 1, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking Region 1? What do you think is going to be the team that's going to punch through to come to the B?
I think it's going to be Kindred.
Okay.
And I got asked this question last night. My first thought is, okay, can Central Cass, now that Deutsch isn't wrestling anymore, and he's their point guard, and he's really good, he can eat the same, he's not worrying about the weights and all that stuff, can they carry Central Cass through? You got Olsen at Kindred. You got Hurlburt, who's the best player in the state for Enderlin. Enderlin's the 1 seed. Kindred clipped them on last Monday by 7. They'd have been the number 1 seed if they'd have won by 10. It just, the 3 teams beat each other. I think Kindred clips Central Cass.
Do you think this is a little motivation because of the girls? You got to oh man, our girls just showed us up. They're going to put their banner in the gym. Do you think
there's a little bit to it, and the entire Kindred student body goes to the games. The entire student body. I mean, I don't think people realize, and I know on the TikTok there's all these fans yelling at me or whatever. I go to the games. Mandan's got an amazing student section. Grafton's got a good student section. Rugby and Botno, we talked about them, amazing student section. Rugby, probably a close 2 or whatnot, but St. Mary's good too, But Kindred, it's the whole student body, and I think you get in that game, it's Kindred versus Enderlin, or Kindred versus Central Cass, then Enderlin. I'm going Kindred. Okay. And, even though Enderlin's the 1 seed, Olsen is super athletic, and they were able to hold Hurlburt down last game.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back,
Okay, we'll touch on a couple other ones. What about, let's say, Region 2? What are your thoughts on Region 2 there? I mean,
I had Thompson winning that.
Big upset.
And they got upset.
Yeah.
I almost think, Grafton's going to try to ride the girls' wave like Kindred, but I'm going Hillsboro.
Oh, boy. Home Andy Laris, good buddy of mine, big Hillsboro guy. So
Hillsboro, I think
they had a great, not a side note, they had a great restaurant that we used to always stop when we'd play NDSU pasta. It was outstanding, by the way, but not to get off your thing. But yeah, Hillsboro.
Well, that's good.
Okay. What about some other ones? What about, let's say, Region 4? What do you think's in Region 4?
I think Region 4.
What is that? 4 wins in
4 wins, yeah. I'm going 4 wins out of Region 4. And I'm taking 4 wins against the field at state.
Oh boy, he's already burning his area in terms of that. But
4 wins are legit.
They travel well. I mean, too, like when they come to the state, like it's crazy. I mean, you talk about the kind of that home crowd feel, which is big. But okay, now let's go closer where we're at. I mean, a lot more focus. I mean, certainly we get to see a lot more in terms of it. We'll go to Region 5. What are your thoughts going into Region 5? It's going to be, close, travel up to North Dakota for the state tournament. But what are your thoughts on Region 5 and who you think is going to come out of there?
It's interesting. You get Wilton Wing, and they survive a scare, overtime scare with Standing Rock. And generally speaking, in history, and I'm going to go against history.
Oh, boy.
When a top seed, Tyus Edney against Mizzou in the second round, and then UCLA rides that to the national championship. When they get that scare, that usually puts everything away, and then they go take care of business the rest of the way. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
But I like Shiloh.
Oh, geez.
I like Shiloh. Shiloh, they got to get through the Troopers tonight. I think they'll get through the Troopers.
Oh, boy.
And I think Shiloh will take care of Wilton.
Okay.
On Thursday night. Okay. That's my guess. But I've seen a lot of teams. I like how well coached Shiloh is.
Okay. And then now we move to focus here in Region 6, and we certainly, if you follow on our TikToks, you know that Spainer's been hanging out at the Dome and checking it out and all that stuff. And of course, now we got a delay here, a little postponement from games, and obviously this will be time. But what's your thoughts on Region 6? I mean, big upset, Velvo over Surrey. I mean, What are your thoughts? Who's going to come through now? Do you think the day has any effect on any of this stuff? I mean, you're probably still in your own jam. They didn't cancel school or anything. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that
momentum's big.
I do think it's going to change a little bit for Feller and Bishop Bryant.
Okay.
He worked so hard,
Yep.
not having that day off between the semis and the finals. I'm wondering how that's going to affect Feller. The big game, I think, because I think Bishop Bryant's going to take care of business. The big game will be Velva and rugby.
Okay.
Now, we talked last week, and I talked about the Mayo Chadwick matchup.
For sure.
This one, you got Foster Chadwick.
Okay.
Now, this is a little different. Mayo was going to try to beat him up the whole game.
Absolutely.
But Foster, he can shoot from far away. He can go down low. He runs the court. That guy can run all four corners of the court.
Absolutely.
That's going to be a bigger challenge for Chadwick, I think. They split during the year. It's going to be tough. Yesterday, I was feeling kind of Velva. They've kind of got this momentum rolling,
which historically hasn't been a basketball school. All of a sudden, here they are.
I think we're going to see a rugby Ryan final, and I think Ryan is going to state.
Oh boy!
Ryan told me they were on a mission. They've been on a mission. They were up 16-2 last night. In the middle of the first quarter. I mean, they're just absolutely throttling teams right now. I think it continues. I think we go Ryan into state. And the interesting thing is, they didn't have that great of a season.
Mm-hmm. No, it seemed like it was.
They're not.
We weren't hearing them talked about early on, and now all of a sudden it's like boom.
So I don't think Ryan gets seeded.
Really?
And they're on fire.
Mm-hmm.
If they make it to state, and this is an if, right?
Yep.
I mean, rugby, whatever, but we talked this. Region 6 beat itself up all over,
Mm-hmm.
If they get unseeded and they're rolling in against Four Winds or the Kindred or Enderlin or whatever, I mean, I don't want to see Ryan if I'm one of the seeded teams. I would want to see one of the other ones. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, Ryan's they're throttling teams kind of like those East teams beat teams. So that'll be interesting. But I just think they've taken too many losses throughout the year. I will say this, though, that Hendrickson, and they got eliminated last night.
Mm-hmm.
I think he averaged 37 points or something a game in the district tournament. The kid went out on fire. Rugby had an absolutely amazing game plan against him, and I mean he just he didn't get it done. He got 21 points I think last night, but he had to take 26 shots to get there
for sure.
And they would run at him, and they'd run a second guy at him or whatnot, and he's trying to pull up, and he's getting contested from a different angle that he wasn't prepared for. Rugby had a masterful game plan against him, so that's kind of what swung me with the rugby Velva. Okay. The guy put together a pretty good game plan against Hendrickson.
Well, good. Well, I got one more question, all right? And if anybody hasn't been paying attention, especially from our podcast, but the TikTok stuff has absolutely exploded. I mean, it's viral views, not only in terms of what we see, but also excitement from the crowds. You got the requests to be on there and stuff like that, but what is it? What's the excitement? Is it just that the gyms are full and they want to get on there, and you got athletes and you got student section? But what's your thoughts on what's the transition? Or maybe there just hasn't been a great.
I'll give you my vision of what's going on.
Yeah,
I want to make the games fun for the kids again.
Absolutely.
I want kids to go to the games and have fun cheering games on. So and I like to listen to what they have to say. Mm-hmm. Last night, 2 girls gave me their predictions for a game that were completely opposite of what actually happened. But I like the fact that they ran down, they asked me to interview and whatnot. They gave me this, they thought about it, whatever. It was interesting, and I listened to them. Mm-hmm. I listen to everything they say. They'll tell me stuff before we interview, the camera, and after the camera or whatnot.
Prepped or whatever.
And I like talking to the kids, and I like listening to them. I think it's fun. After the game, I try to pick an interview with what I perceive as the hardest working kid. Not necessarily the best kid.
It's hard working.
The hardest working guy. I like to see kids that take charges, dive for loose balls. They're that fill in the gaps kid that make it. That missing ingredient. You were a coach. You know what I'm talking about. And then we come here, and you're going to ask me questions of what I see. I watch the games. Last week I thought the biggest matchup, and it ended up being the biggest matchup of the region tournament. I thought it was interesting. you know, but I love high school sports.
Yeah.
And I think there's multiple layers to high school sports.
Absolutely.
And you know, and I think the student section and the crowd is a big part of it. I think the players and what they're doing on the court, and not just who scores, is a big part of it. I think we, in the last 10 to 12 years, media has gotten so efficient or, you know, streamlined that we don't tell the story of some of these things anymore.
Which
you know,
is what people want. They're craving for that stuff.
you know, and then you got coaches' interviews, but it's painful for a coach, and a coach isn't they're gonna give you any information that they don't want out there. You ask a coach something, you ever listen to the coach at halftime or a post game? It's just like, and they give you absolutely zero information. So I'm trying to just tell a different story and make it fun, and I think the kids are really appreciative of it.
Well, for sure. Well, we encourage everybody to check out our TikTok stuff and watch Spainer. He's always at the courts, and we're going to see a lot more. That's it for our high school section here on Spainer and Riggs.
We're talking the greatest of all time, baseball pitchers, and this one's like crazy all over the place. I mean, you know, early years, later years, closers, you know, or whatnot.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll battle the best early pitchers.
Okay.
And then we'll battle the best modern starting pitchers. Then we'll battle the best closer.
Okay.
Right?
Well, yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
And then maybe
Which
we'll
changed
just kind
the game
of
because, I mean, honestly, when did they start recording saves? It's been like
early 80s, late 70s. Or Goose Gossage, right, was the
Yeah.
beginner. And
Yeah.
so if we start there, you know, you've got Goose Gossage. You got Mariano Rivera.
Dennis Eckersley. I mean, with the A's in there too as well.
And he started out as a starting pitcher, right?
And crazy, the stat guy that has the most saves is was for a while, was Trevor Hoffman, wasn't it? Like he was, he for Milwaukee and.
Dude, I got a Trevor Hoffman story.
Oh no!
Oh my god!
Change up, that
I
nasty
freaking
change.
hate that guy.
Big
I'm a Dodger
leg
fan,
kick.
right? So he was like some ungodly number of like 45 for 45 against the Dodgers or whatnot, right? And, you know me, I got baseball ticket every year. I watch every Dodger game. You know, I do my summer elliptical on the Dodgers while I'm watching them and whatnot. So we got to get to this guy, the eighth inning. I don't know who the setup guy is. We got to get to him because Hoffman's coming in. He has never blown a save against the Dodgers. So I'm pissed off. We get like bases loaded or something, and the guy strikes out, and then so the sacrifice is gone. Boom.
Oh, boy.
So it gets to the ninth inning, you know, and it's late, you know, this Pacific time. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. I was like, I was pouting, you know, just being a complete baby, you know. My wife stays up to watch the game. She doesn't even like baseball. But she stays up to watch the game. Yeah. I go to bed. No joke. The Dodgers, they were down 3. They go back to back to back on Hoffman.
Crazy.
And then Nomar Garcia-Parra hits a walk-off in the 10th.
Oh, jeez.
I went to bed. And my wife, she just watched it. She didn't wake me up.
Oh, man.
Serves me right, though.
Crazy.
She shouldn't have to wake me up.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I think it's clear, though, when we're talking closers, that Rivera's he's our entry, right?
I couldn't stand him. You know, I'm a Blue Jays fan, so, I mean, watching the Yankees and stuff. But his cutter was unbelievable. I mean, you just watch, like, every one of his pitches. It would just move, like, an inch at the last second, just enough to be able to hit a ground.
Do you remember their first title?
What was that, 90?
I think they beat the Braves, right? And the Braves
96?
smashed
96?
them the first 2 games, and everyone was like, the Braves are going to win this, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
John Wetland was the MVP.
Oh, former Expo.
John Wetland was the MVP, and he was the closer, right, for the Yankees.
Yep.
Mariano Rivera came in the 7th inning of all 4 of those games and pitched the 7th and 8th. And then he was so dominant, that's when they moved on. And then they went to Rivera. Like, he pitched 8 innings in 4 games in a row, and it wasn't a sweep because they lost the first 2.
Sure.
They swept out the last 4 of the Braves. And I mean, he's definitely the GOAT closer, right?
Yeah,
we agree on that.
Yep.
So we got early years baseball.
Okay.
We have Satchel Paige, the greatest of all the Negro leagues, and he was, I mean, unbelievably dominant.
Yeah, machine.
And it's sad. It's hard. And I almost, because when I started going over this and thinking about his names and whatever, I almost don't want to count Ruth as our GOAT from last week. Because do you count anyone pre-integration? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, when you look at it,
Cy Young, and you got, you know,
Cy Young,
Sandy Koufax.
Christy Mathewson are probably,
yeah.
and Bob Feller, right?
Yeah.
Bob Feller's probably a distant third to those guys.
Yeah.
Christy Mathewson, 90 WAR. I mean, he won 31 games in 1905 with like a 1.69 ERA.
Man, that's
so,
did you like collect cards? You know, like the gum cards and
I got all of them.
Did you do all that?
I got all of them, man.
Yeah, you did. Probably, didn't you?
My favorite cards by 1983,
Listen
Don
to your,
Mattingly. You know,
AM radio while listening to the games and didn't have for pre-TV.
I have 2 of every Nolan Ryan.
Oh my God.
So I mean, he was like my hero. You know.
But who would you like? Who do you got for
Mathewson's? I mean, Mathewson had like a 5-year run. It's like greater than anyone ever. But the award's named after Cy Young. He's 511 wins. It'll never be broken, right?
I agree.
So I mean, so we have Rivera and Cy Young. So we get to the modern pitchers.
Yep.
And you got Koufax,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan. Who else we got?
I mean, Greg Maddux is really good for me. Randy Johnson. I mean, if he came later, right? Didn't he like develop later in terms of that
Bob
stuff?
Gibson.
I mean,
we got to mention Bob Gibson,
yeah.
right? You know, he had
maybe
the best modern single season ever, right?
Yeah. What about steroids and Roger Clemens and all that stuff? Does that taint you? I mean, I don't want to get off the track here, but does that taint you a little bit in terms of that? I mean, in fact, you know, here's the other thing too is like he was with the Red Sox, and then there was that 3-year stint with the Blue Jays that people completely don't forget that he played there for 3 years, and he was dominant. I don't even know if he won a Cy Young with the Blue Jays.
I mean, that guy played everywhere, and he was dominant everywhere.
That's where he apparently was, you know, because he was kind of going downwards and back on the roids when he started with the Jays and stuff too. But I mean, you talk about like, you know, Greg Maddux too. I mean, unbelievable he was as a pitcher and stuff like that. There's just so many different choices though, you know. But
I love Maddux. He had that commercial, you know, girls dig the long ball, you know.
Yeah.
him and Glavin, you know.
Oh,
they were hitting each other with the bat, you know,
Yeah.
and they're going like this in the weight room, all lifting weights. But I mean,
you got Pedro in there, you know, like there's just, I mean, not for GOAT, but just
Kershaw too. I mean Kershaw and Pedro are kind of similar.
Getting there and stuff. I mean, and I'm a Roy Halladay guy, but of course he burned out. I mean, that no-hitter perfect game he had in 09 with the Phillies after he'd been dormant with the Blue Jays. And then unfortunately, you know, you learn the backstory, and he had some very, very tough problems with drugs, you know, oxycodone and those type of things, and started to deteriorate at age like 32. Which and he was a workhorse, you know, and that's the problem with baseball now. They get all worried about that, right? The pitch counts and all those type of things too. But who do you got? Who do you like?
I like Koufax,
Okay.
and I'm a Dodger guy.
Yeah.
But Koufax had probably in the modern baseball a 6-year, 7-year run that no one can equal.
Yeah.
They just can't equal it. You know, he didn't have the 20 years like Nolan Ryan or, you know, Steve Carlton and those guys that played a million times. Steve Carlton 1 year won 27 games, and the Phillies only won 57.
Oh my God.
27 of 57 is ridiculous. But, you know, I like Koufax, southpaw. You know, I just don't think he had 4 no-hitters.
Yeah.
In a short stretch. Ryan at the 7 no-hitters. Ryan never won a Cy Young.
I know.
And everyone says this. He had 383 strikeouts in 73, but Jim Palmer was unbelievable that year. You know, I think if you're going to be...
know who Jim Palmer is. I certainly have no clue. He's dropping names, but yeah.
But, you know, I look at it like he was never even the best pitcher in a single year.
Yeah.
And
I don't do it.
You get the longevity over a long time.
Sure.
It's important. I'm a Sandy Koufax guy. I think he's the GOAT. I think I really don't want to count stuff before sports were integrated. You know, I mean, none of Cy Young's records will ever be touched. But I mean, it was a different game.
I know.
You know, I mean, he threw like every night. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just different. I don't know. That's what I got. You know, you're a Blue Jay guy there.
I know. You know, for me, just because I'm, of course, prior to my birth in '83, I don't know. I mean, I follow baseball, but not as religiously as you did. But just for modern era, for me, it's Randy Johnson. I just absolutely just feared his, you know, the gas that he could throw with his left. And I feel like if he would have played or developed earlier, I guess he started actually with the Expos. I think was originally where he started. I think it was before he went to the Mariners. But then later. That was my guy, just dominant lefty in recent times, and was able to get it done with the Diamondbacks. That's who mine is. But you know what? This is a debatable show, and we want to know exactly what your thoughts are. And this one, I think, is probably you know,
it's wide open.
It is very wide open. I mean, Era's
We're
played,
probably going to get a lot of
No.
"you're an idiot" comments on this one.
Oh, I hope so. I honestly do. I mean, it is. I mean, you know, we could go on and on and on. I mean, he's talking about like, you know, staff and like what things would have happened if the Expos would have not had the strike in '94. You know, Wetland wouldn't have been there. Would Mariano Rivera have been there early?
The Yankees were the best team in the AL too.
Yeah. Would he have been at that? If he would have been the closer earlier, would he have that longevity? But I don't know.
That year broke my heart. And as a Dodger fan, it's fine. But Donnie Baseball, I love Don Mattingly. It was my favorite card. I told you in 1983, his rookie year. I don't know. It's just that strike here broke my heart. It's just hard when you're a baseball fan. But
killed baseball in Montreal, that's for sure. So I mean, if you're a Washington Nationals fan, you're kind of glad it happened.
Pedro Martinez.
Yeah, unbelievable.
You want to know something about
Larry
him?
Walker's on the team.
He came up with the Dodgers.
No way, really?
They traded him for like Marquise Grissom.
Oh, jeez.
This after his brother, Ramon Martinez, won the Cy Young for the Dodgers, and they traded Pedro for Marquise Grissom. Killing me, dude.
That team is loaded. I mean, like you said, you know, like John Wetland was in there. He had Larry Walker. I mean, Delano DeShields, who's like 100 miles an hour sprinter in terms of that stuff. They were loaded at all those positions. So
they have Andre Dawson too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Tim Raines was there too. So
Rock Raines.
Man,
I like him.
But yeah, let us know what you think, and we want to see your comments. Who's the greatest GOAT in MLB pitching?
Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 at Spainer and Riggs. Brought to you by the Dakota Network. Check us out on SpainerandRiggs.com. I look forward to seeing all you guys out there at the state tournament down in Bismarck. And I look forward to seeing teams, all you fans at the Region B, Class B championships this week. We'll see you.